We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Lowe's knows how to help you save this 4th of July. Upgrade your laundry routine with the new and exclusive first-of-its-kind all-in-one vented laundry combo. Wash and dry in just 68 minutes. Save up to 40% on select major appliances. Plus, when you buy more, you save more. Shop Samsung this July 4th at Lowe's. Valid through 7/9. See Lowe's.com for details. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Selection varies by location. Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Right now, get a free select tool when you buy the Craftsman V20 2-pack battery kit. Whether it's the backyard, the bathroom, or beyond, Craftsman has the tools to help you power through and get the project done right. Because DIYing is unpredictable, but your tools shouldn't be. Shop Craftsman at Lowe's today. Valid through 7/9 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. Maximum initial battery voltage measured without a workload is 20 volts. Nominal voltage is 18.
Stop right there. Yeah, you. If you like all things entertainment, current events, or Hollywood, then look no further. Creator to Creators, hosted by director Meosha of Horror Noir, interviews filmmakers and creatives from around the world. Join in on the fun, guest celebrities, and informative information to have as a creator. Hit subscribe and stay connected to Creator to Creators.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today, we have a very special guest.
Ralph Jean-Pierre.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I love, going to the beginning. I always say at the beginning kind of charts our trajectory and like where we're going in life. Look, our little habits, the things that we kind of pick up along the way, kind of follow us as we become adults. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, what was that like? And kind of how did you find your way into what you're doing now?
Oh, man. Kind of interesting, kind of unique. Oh, no, maybe not too unique, but yeah, it's kind of special. I'm an immigrant kid. Born in Haiti. My family moved to America when I was 3. And I was raised in a conservative Christian household. I was raised Seventh Adventist, and my dad was a pastor.
Wow.
So he was a pastor missionary, and we moved around a lot. So growing up, once we moved to America, every roughly 3 years, kind of moved around from New York to Boston, Orlando, Michigan, and eventually Maryland. So junior year in Maryland is kind of what got my introduction to filmmaking. That's when I took an editing class at my high school, and it introduced me to this world. I never thought I'd be doing this.
Really?
As an immigrant kid, you can be a doctor or a lawyer, and that's pretty much the 2 routes you're going, or a pastor in my family and stuff. But one thing about my parents, they encouraged art so much in our education. Of course, we had to get our straight A's, math, science. I did very well in those. But we started music at an early age, where it was piano, around 7, 8, and then I jumped to violin and trumpet. And through all of that, I found my love of reading and music. So we didn't grow up going to the movie theaters or anything like that. So pretty much for my storytelling, it was books. And I found that at an early age, I enjoyed the serialized book, like Boxcar Kids, things that, I didn't age myself there, but, things that kept going. I didn't want just one story and it's done. I love novels and serialized novels, and that kind of shows my reading with all my fantasy novels now. I need, 3, 4 books that are this thick to, or that are massive to read and stuff. But that introduced my love of storytelling. And my dad's a pastor. He would always tell great stories up on the pulpit. Such great analogies, the way he would mix in real life events with the Bible to what people are dealing with. And with my family, I didn't go to the movie theater until we were 16, I think,
Wow.
and convinced my parents to like, no, we couldn't go. We went to go see like The Prince of Egypt, something I was like, all right, that could be a good medium, start something to check out. And we did that. And then my second movie was The Matrix, and that blew my mind. Sitting in the theater, seeing that, and I was already very much into computers. An 80s kid, I got into computers in sixth, seventh grade. So I was already programming in eighth grade, teaching college kids how to program and stuff like that. So when I saw this movie that took everything I loved from martial arts to, technology and everything into one, it completely blew my mind. And of course, my dad related it to the Bible with the story of Neo and Trinity and Morpheus. And he gave a sermon about that later on and
Love
stuff.
that.
But that, really started making me think about, wait, can I do this? And so in high school, I took that TV production class, and senior year, I was doing our class senior video presentation. And that was my thing, pull out the camera, spent the whole year editing, preparing this video for our senior class. And by the time I entered college, I was gonna I mastered in computer science and math, but then I minored in media production because I was living in Maryland, Washington, D.C. at the time, and I was going to be a computer programmer for the government. That's the track I wanted to go. But the bug for filmmaking was always in there, for editing, for video production was always in there. And I think around my third or fourth year in undergrad, I realized I had an internship, and I did not like clocking in, clocking out, at the computer job where I had to, be a technician and all that stuff. But you can find me at the studio for free all night long, transcribing documentaries or doing anything I can inside the studio. And I realized that's really where my love is. And fast forward, years later, after I graduated, traveled around the world, came back, decided I wanted to follow my passion in filmmaking. And in my 20s, I visited LA for about 2 weeks, slept on my buddy's couch, took up as many interviews as I could to see, where I could land, and realized quickly this is a city where you have to know somebody. You can't come in. Yeah, I quickly learned. So, but that was my childhood before I, go into like now and things like that.
I mean, that's incredible though, that you just had like, and it seems like obviously, I think like when you love what you do, it's like you're gonna figure out a way to get it somehow. When it's the love is there, it's like it keeps pulling you back in. Like you said, you could have been doing, computers, but you're like, no, this film just kept calling your name. And I think, do you feel like it's your purpose, that you found your purpose in life?
I honestly, I do. I feel like I found my purpose in life in this. Editing, I found, encompasses so much of my personalities and my talents and things I'm into one. Like I said, I'm into music. So at some point I started working at recording studios, interning, learning how to engineer, and having that tool set where Pro Tools, once I got into Avid or sound design or anything, I'm like, oh, all these tools make sense. This is, yeah. My background in computer, I found that I'm very comfortable using, the computer as my tool. I wish I had a chance to do film, cut on a moviola at least once, but once I got into this, it was turning into digital. I was one of the first playing around with Final Cut back in the day. But I found, that, and then my, again, love for photography and videography, that all blends into this. And I found that, I also find that, obviously editing is the final rewrite in any story. And again, this brings my storytelling love, where I can, in computer science, a lot of, and higher level math, I have a major in math as well, it's all about logic. How do I get from A to B, whatever, it's all theory. And I found that in my storytelling, where it's about logic, how do I get my audience to track this, and then go to that part of the timeline. How do I get them from A to B and stuff? And I found, my logical artsy brain kind of meshes well with editing, and, how I can use the tool of editing to tell my stories. And I can really say, no, I found my passion. I feel very lucky, very blessed to be able to work in something I fell in love with, in my high school years.
Nice. I love that. So tell me a little bit, like, now you're on this amazing show that you're doing called Tokyo Vice. I guess for some listeners who don't really know the premise about the show, tell us a little bit about that, and kind of how did that come about, And did you know anything prior to, getting the job about the show?
Uh, well, a little about the show Tokyo Vice. We just wrapped up. Well, second season just finished airing maybe about a month or so ago,
Awesome.
and it's a show based off a book called Tokyo Vice by this author Jake Adelstein,
Nice.
and pretty much our character Jake is an American who moved to Japan to work in one of their biggest newspaper firms there is, and as a foreigner working in a Japanese company that is pretty much not heard of.
Right.
So this was a big deal. So we're now tracking this character Jake as he deals with the crime beat, dealing with the yakuza and the dirty cops, and kind of you're seeing this whole underworld belly of Tokyo that you honestly don't really see in television.
Mm.
So you're tracking this beautiful detective crime story, but there's so much levels with the yakuza where you have a deeper look at their characters and their struggles of dealing with this. And we have our hostess girls, where you see that world where a lot of Americans don't know about that world of Japan, the red light district of
Yeah.
that whole culture, which I feel this show really brings. Yeah. And how I got on it was thankfully, through my agent, reached out, said, hey, this show that we're looking at for you, love for you to interview for it. And I remember vaguely hearing of the show, from season one, but with streaming and working, there was so much on TV. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah. It's
So
hard.
I was like, all right, I have an interview in 3 days. I binge watched in 2 nights. While working, and
I
from
love it.
episode 1, I was like, oh, directed by Michael Mann. Wait, Ken Watanabe. Oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
I just
Insane, right?
in and stuff, and completely, soaked it up in 2 nights, and I felt my experience with Japanese culture really helped. So after undergrad, I went to Japan for a year as a student missionary to teach English. And being, a 22-year-old Haitian American boy with dreads in Japan, that was a major culture shock for
I bet
myself
that
and for
was.
them. Yeah. But it was life learning. I had to grow up a lot, learn to be alone, learn to experience new cultures, and being a foreigner there really opened my eyes to the culture and to myself. So watching the show, I found that I related to the characters a lot, and I could see what they were feeling. So when I was interviewing with Brad Carpenter, the post producer, and Alan Poole, executive producer, I was able to relate, how I felt myself in the story, and I had this experience, and I had a basic understanding of the language, and I was immersed in the culture. So I feel that was one great leg up to get the job. And once started getting the dailies, it was it was great.
That's amazing. I feel like that's so cool. I mean, that you got that job, and now you're on this amazing show. And I'm curious of when so I don't really know how that works, because I know a little bit about editing, but I don't really know the whole world about it. But I'm sure the editing style from season 1 was different from season 2, or do you feel like was there a different approach that you had to take when it came to season 2 doing that?
Yeah, no, we did have to change styles. For example, we had a new editorial crew for season 2, a new team of editors, and also a few new directors. So we pretty much only Alan and Joseph, the director I worked with for my 4 episodes, came from the previous season.
Oh.
So fortunately, we had Alan, start us off, who was a showrunner. It's his baby. He knows the show, so he can start the style, start the flow. But honestly, I like to take every episode, everything I do, I keep it contained in a sense. I have this weird thing where I love to watch what others do, but I feel like sometimes it might influence my style or how I want to tell the story.
Right.
So of course I know the background, I know the story, I've read the script, I've watched the footage, I watched the previous episodes, but when I come and approach it, I like to take it my way, in a sense, when I start with my dailies and then begin shaping it with my director and the producers. But we'll find that on our show, we were able to keep a lot of the movement and the energy from season 1. But in season 2, I felt we took it a little bit more cinematic and slowed it down a bit with the drama, which allowed you to really get in with the characters and really dive in into the emotions and what our characters are dealing with and feeling at the time.
I love that. That's beautiful. I think that's so, I mean, the fact that, I gotta check out the show. I've seen some like clips here and there, but I just never, I'm more of like the horror genre, but I'm pretty sure it has, I'm sure some scary elements to it.
Nice.
But I gotta check it out. I gotta check it out. It looks really, really amazing.
No, definitely. And honestly, I think it's really one of those surprise hits. I don't want to say surprise, but the feedback from season 2 to season 1 has been, amazing. Just read an article and just like how more people are watching it now and really getting into it. And I feel like it's, it compares to like Sopranos, even like it's
Wow.
something where it will have some kind of like longevity and stuff. It has elements of The Wire where you can see this. So there's a lot of great elements of a real neo-noir crime drama set in, late 90s Tokyo.
Tokyo. That's so cool. That's so cool. Is there going to be a season 3?
We don't know yet. Hoping for, crossing fingers. We're all waiting.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be and stuff. But honestly, when you mentioned horror, my previous job was the horror show, Servant on Apple TV, which kind of led. Yes. Oh yes. So I was there for about 3 seasons.
Nice.
Season 2, I came in as an assistant editor 1 month before the pandemic. So literally, I moved to Philadelphia from LA, and settled in February. 1 month in, there's a pandemic. We got to shut down for 2 weeks. Can y'all stick around for a bit? It's like, oh yeah, sure, we'll hang out. 2 weeks turned into 2 months, 2 months into 2 years, and so forth. But honestly, getting that chance to work with M. Night and his, Blinding Edge production team and all of them was godsend. It was the blessing in the pandemic, in a sense, where it forced us now editors to have more of an intimate role where we're locked in, with him and the team to create the show. And I was very fortunate in season 3 to get bumped up from assistant to editor. So Knight was the first one to give me my chance, in the television industry to become an editor. And I'm, always thankful for him for that. And was able to edit 2 episodes in season 3, and they brought me back to season 4, where I got to cut 4 and the finale and stuff. So, and all of that was able to lead into Tokyo Vice, because once I left LA, it was on the East Coast. I had a child, and I'm like, well, I need to be the East Coast for my little one. And the Tokyo Vice ended up working out perfectly since they're based in New York, and I was able to stay out here.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. That's incredible. Like that you go from Servant to this. And I'm curious, how difficult is it? I'm sure everyone, like any path you take there's going to be ups and downs in it. How difficult is it, as far as like, is it pretty competitive there? I mean, because I'm sure there's a lot of editors out there. How do you set yourself apart as far as like, keep working?
Oh man, you're so right. How there's a lot of editors out here, and LA is the hub. That's why I moved there. It's the hub, and it's back to you can't get a job unless you know somebody. Right. So honestly, it really was networking. What I had to put my foot down. I had to put my foot up to the ground and talk to everyone, meet everyone, and do a little bit of everything. I remember the types of things I've edited. I've done a little bit of everything just to introduce and meet, free things, do a little mix here or something there and stuff. But I would always try to keep myself busy to get different types of content and to network. Yeah. And one thing that helped me in my networking in LA was I was introduced to AFI Conservatory. And there's this DP that he took me under his wing, Tommy Maddox, Upshaw, amazing DP, and he's like, hey, you should check out AFI. I went there, graduated, and it really helped my career, especially as a person of color, where we don't have a lot of major connection or exposure, easy connections to the major industry. So I went, applied, got in, and they only accept 14 editors a year, and fortunately I was one of the 4, and you end up becoming good friends with the editors. Like we literally talk every day. I graduated 10 plus years ago, and I literally just spoke to one yesterday and and today of the editors from our year. But from that, it really helped build our network, and you build friends. And from there, everyone started sharing jobs once we graduated. I think my first job was a digital media job, for YouTube network,
Oh,
editing
wow.
teen girl videos and stuff. But that led to, the next job and the next job, the next job. So for me, I found that not burning bridges,
Right.
working hard, and honestly, I will meet my deadlines, and meeting those deadlines. And if you do have a mistake, own up to it.
Yeah.
Own up to it. But the biggest thing I learned from a mentor of mine was don't burn those bridges. And if you have an issue at a job, you find it's hard. Imagine it's 6 months, 9 months.
Yes. Yeah.
Burn through it and stuff. You don't have to come back if they invite you to the next, the next thing. But go
So
through
true.
it, and of course, don't be abused. Of course, we have. I'm not saying
Yes.
to take abuse, but no, honestly, it's a hard industry, and there are 100 people right behind you,
Yeah.
ready, waiting for that opportunity. So I found that proving myself through my work ethic, what I bring to the table really has kept me in the running and kept me working throughout these years.
I'm curious, like I feel like everyone has to have, well, especially in what we're doing creatively in the creative field, because like I said, there's so many people that are waiting for the opportunity, like, if you don't take that
Mhm.
job. So it is about opportunity and who you know. But like, at the end of the day, like like, what keeps you going to in this business sometimes when you're at your lowest point?
Mm. Yeah, and honestly, you're talking about what a lot of us are dealing with now and feeling now. It's like
Is it
myself,
actually
I
a
don't have.
therapy session? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, which is another role as an editor. Honestly, you do run as a therapist with everyone on your couch behind
Right.
you. So, but yeah, it's honestly, I think it has to be the passion and the joy
Mm,
for it. Honestly, myself, colleagues, friends who are, right now waiting for the contraction to, stop, or for jobs to open up again. Everyone on that same matter was like, but we love this. We love our job. We love what we do. We love this passion. And that's honestly what keeps me going. A lot of us are doing side work. When I'm reading articles how execs are doing Uber Eats, I'm like, well, got to make the cash somehow in
yeah, I mean,
between and stuff. You got to do what you got to do. And honestly, now being a father, it's like, oh, I'm definitely doing it for my kid. I got to
yeah,
keep my child fed and stuff.
definitely.
But yeah, it's honestly, it's the passion. And what I found now is during this down period was, all right, what can I do for myself?
Yeah.
So again, I reconnected with friends. Let me work on your side shorts. You have a passion project you want to do.
Yeah.
Let's work on that. If you want to write, this is your time to start writing when it's down.
Yeah.
Start your branding, work on your website, work on your reel. And now I'm in a new city where I'm here in New Haven, Connecticut. So I'm trying to get involved in the city, going on events and taking photos, and just being involved and volunteering my tools and crafts to the local community and stuff.
Yeah.
So I found during the down period, you're gonna have to dig deep and kind of search and find yourself again. From
Definitely.
therapy, meditation, go on those walks, whatever you need to center yourself. You're going to have to and push through, because this industry, like any other industry, goes through its ebbs and flows, and its ups and downs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's honestly just holding on and pushing through it.
Love that. I love that. It's great. It's great advice. It's really good to remember. So I like asking this question, and there's no wrong answer, but the three levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you could
Oh,
choose one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
oh wow. Oh, money, power, respect. Okay, all right. I feel like philosophical answer is respect. And stuff, yeah, yeah, respect. But respect can be earned. It's something that you
Yeah,
really
I mean, yeah.
and stuff. Um, I would have to say power. I'm just go for power.
Hmm.
Because with power, hopefully you're a decent person. I would say it's me. I generally find myself a decent person, and I'm not gonna manipulate it with my
For
power.
sure.
But with, with the power I can receive, I can attract the financiers, I
Yeah,
can attract VCs and the money, which
right.
will help me create projects, create stories and stuff. And hopefully from the stories and my work ethic and people I work with, they learn to respect me, and that respect
Right.
grows through that.
It's a great answer.
But yeah, I might have to go with power on this one.
I like that. I like that. It's a great answer.
That's a great question. I might have to start doing that for icebreakers with people.
It's like, I mean, I don't think there's any wrong answer, but a lot of people like to choose respect, which I get.
Nice.
I understand,
Yeah.
but like, let's be honest. What would we actually choose?
We say money or power.
Yeah, it's like, no, I love that. It's a great answer. And not many people say power, so I respect that a lot, actually, because I think people automatically assume like if you want power, you seek power, that means you're gonna like abuse it or you're a bad person. Or I don't really necessarily think power corrupts you. I think if you're either, I think what money does is highlights what you already are, you know. So if you're already a douchebag, you're just gonna be an even bigger douchebag.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're you're a jerk assistant manager, you'll be a jerk CEO. That's it.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give to artists or people out there that are trying to get into this business, and don't really know what to do or how to go about it?
Well, for me, I could speak as an editor. I'll speak as an editor. And the bit I know about other production, I found that there are many avenues in production, filmmaking, whatnot that you can go. But for me specifically with TV editing, which was my passion, I had to move to LA. I had to move to Hollywood. I lived there for about 13, 14 years before I came back east. But I had to go out there and really show myself. I have a few godsons that are in high school now who are getting into this craft, and I tell them and all their friends, this is the summer, go make movies. Go make movies. You guys have iPhone. There's so much greatness you can do with the iPhone right now.
So true.
Stuff. You have a powerful tool in your pocket, and I really encourage the kids and anyone to go make projects, go experiment and try. You have to keep on trying, and don't be afraid to fail. Don't not. I'm a perfectionist. I have all my imposter syndromes, and I battle, all of the anxieties and everything with my craft. But I even have to push myself. I have to finish the craft, finish the story, create a deadline, create deadlines, because like art will never finish. All these movies would never be done unless the studio's like, all right, the movie's being released next week, it's done.
100%.
Yeah, and things. So I would say for anyone getting to this is find their passion and also your niche. Honestly, when I got into LA, I was into cinematography and editing.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. I did both. I had a camera. I could, do all that. But I learned and heard from a mentor was, are they going to hire me to direct the movie, shoot the movie, and edit the movie at the same time?
Right.
Not necessarily, unless I'm like some Nolan. Not necessarily.
Unless you're Tyler Perry. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and acting it. And anyway, but it was like I had to find my passion. So what I did was I shadowed cinematographers. I, saw what they did. Asked to be around them. Then same thing with editors. Saw what they did, and I found, my heart and my skill set really went more towards editing, and I was able to push for that. And once I found that my niche and what I was good at, I was able to become a master of that craft, where I am now able to collaborate and bring my expertise to other filmmakers. And speaking of collaboration, that is the biggest thing that filmmakers we have to learn to do and deal with, is collaborate with writers, other cinematographers, other directors, because even with egos, all of us have a little bit of ego. We've been doing this forever. We won that award. We won that film.
Right.
Like got accepted to that school.
Right.
But we're gonna have to learn to collaborate to create a project, because everyone has their expertise, and it's beautiful when everyone can come together in synergy and create something. Absolutely. So I'd really suggest push for it, learn to collaborate, find your craft. And don't be afraid to jump in the deep end. If you have to move to New York, Atlanta, Louisiana, Texas, or even you have to stay in your hometown, jump in the deep end and go for it 110%, 110%.
I love that. Do you feel like the industry is changing for the better when it comes to, editors and just like people that are like creatives? Do you feel like they're creating more opportunity? Because like there's as a female, as a woman, filmmaker, DP, director, all the things, entrepreneur. I always find that, the biggest thing I hear a lot of people say over, and being in it, almost 20 years now, they say like, you have to just create your own opportunities because, obviously the phone's not always going to ring. So you have to open, you have to do it yourself. But do you feel like now, 2024, and now that, the March and the SAG after all that we were going through, that whole situation with everyone's picketing and saying like we want, we need money and demands and our expertise as artists. Do you feel like it's changing for the better? Do you feel like Hollywood is gonna continue to create more opportunities, or do you feel like, I don't know?
Oh, it's tough. The optimist and the pessimist in me are both battling.
I know, right? It's like,
it's like I want things to be better.
yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. I entered this industry roughly around 2013, 14, when I first joined the union in my first television gig, and I felt like that was an influx where network was slightly phasing out and streaming was really, really coming in. And there was so much content over these last, 10 years or so. And I did feel it gave so many people much more opportunities than there might have been before. However, now, when we're realizing the streaming model is broken and now our business mommy and daddies aren't making money anymore, where does that leave us? And that leaves us to finding our lanes, finding what do we do? Like for myself, I'm like, wow, I'm really beholden upon certain creators to get me a job for me to have my livelihood. And I found myself now not comfortable with that. And okay, right. So how do I create for myself? What do I need to do to be a creator myself? So it's tough in this time. I feel like the opportunities are there, but I don't think currently right now, I don't think that it'll be as flourishing as it was the last few years. I think we're in a little weird dip area where everyone's kind of trying to figure it out and stuff. And honestly, I hope that we can get back onto that ramp and get into quality filmmaking, because there's an opportunity for so many young filmmakers out there to learn and to grow, and I don't want them to miss out on these opportunities. Yeah. I hope that answers that question a bit.
It does. Thank you. No, it's a great answer. Where can people find you on social media to find what you're doing and all that you have going on?
Oh, okay. I guess most of my social Instagram is Jean-Pierre, RJEANPIERRE, or can just go to ralphedits.com and everything's on there.
I love it.
So, yeah.
I love it. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on. This was lovely.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. Thank you.
Definitely have to come back on in the future.
Oh, awesome. Anytime. And let's talk horror stories.
I'm so down. Down.
Honestly, that gave me my start. Horror films were my first indie features. So
I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear that. Well, thank you again. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.